How's it, Godzilla fans, kaiju fans, collectors, and just general people of YouTube? This is Chanzilla1964 coming to you approximately 24 hours after at the time of this recording anyways, after I walked out of the theaters from watching Godzilla Minus One. After letting it sit for a day, I figured I'm ready to review it. And this is going to be my review for Godzilla Minus One. Just kind of jumping right into it here. There's going to be spoilers. I'm going to try to keep it minor because I did record a longer version of this review, and it was just me going through the whole movie. I felt it was unnecessary for me to go through the whole movie. If that is something you guys want, let me know in the comment section down below and I can post that one. That's about 55 minutes long, but this review is just going to be a kind of a short one, just kind of glancing over everything. There will be spoilers though. I'm going to say there's going to be spoilers. As that being said, I want to say straight off the bat, a lot of what this movie did subverted my expectations in what I expected it to be, and it was in an enjoyable way. I liked every twist and turn that I was shocked by, especially in the music, because composer Naoki Sato did a very good job with the themes, with the soundtrack in this movie. I loved every single track in it. I listened to it from the time it came out on Spotify up until I saw it, yesterday pretty much, and it was just enjoyable. If you hear jingling and stuff in the background, that's my dogs kind of walking around. Kind of getting into the movie itself though, tone-wise, it's very, very it's a roller coaster. Tone-wise and emotions-wise, I enjoyed all of it, despite it being a real roller coaster kind of feeling, because it's a tone very reminiscent of 1954 in that there's a lot of melancholic attributes and dark attributes to this. But at the same time, it's a tone where you understand where the melancholy is coming from. Especially being myself, or like when I say myself, a 21st century Gen Zer pretty much. Trying to put myself into these characters' shoes, I'm able to understand it better versus the 1954 movie, which granted it was made for a very specific audience. It was made for the Japanese audience right after World War II, and that original Godzilla was supposed to be a metaphor for nuclear weaponry and the atomic bomb itself and the suffering they had to go through. But for us in the 21st century, it's a bit, you get a different feeling than what they may have been going for back then, is what I'm trying to say. And for me, I had an easier time understanding where these characters are coming from because of the way the movie was done and set up. From showing us the backstory of Shikashima, the main character, to pretty much showing us how he meets everyone, from Naoki and Akiko to Ota, I believe her name was, or her last name at least, and then you meet the other characters on the boat. You meet Noda and Akitsu and he's the young guy. He's in it, yeah. And Mizushima. That's it, Mizushima. Meeting all those characters and just kind of getting to know them and all of their stories from World War II, it's a lot easier to digest where everyone is coming from. And I get, it's easy to understand too. It's not a hard movie to follow, which is definitely something really good, especially if you're trying to read subtitles. Me being someone who doesn't speak Japanese or read Japanese, it was a very easy movie for me to digest, and I really enjoyed it. From the monster action, which, while it was kept to kind of, it wasn't kept to a minimal, but it was kind of an average for Godzilla movies. It was utilized very well, in my opinion. And it's pretty much every plot point that they used to set up the monster action makes sense every way, and the movie just kind of goes from back to back to back to back. Every scene was important. If you had to take one scene out of the movie just wouldn't make sense after. So even though it was a 2 hour runtime, 2 hour 5 minutes runtime, I felt it could have been longer, because there's some parts that left me kind of wanting a little more. from the characters, or a little more from the Godzilla action. But at the same time, I didn't really mind it because the movie was so not really so fast paced, in the sense that you couldn't catch your breath, because there were moments in the movie where you can kind of, where you do, as an audience, you're able to take a step back and kind of breathe from all of the craziness, monster action, military, well, not military action, but citizen coalition action that's going on, and you're able to kind of get into the heads and understand the characters more, especially on the grounds of the relationship between Nariko and Tsukishima. And you're especially able to get grounded in the sense that when the characters are feeling a certain way, for me personally, in the audience, I felt similarly, and I was able to understand kind of where certain characters are coming from, like Akiko and Akitsu. Heck, even Mizushima, I could understand where the heck he was coming from at a certain point in the movie, because there's quite a few scenes in the movie where that tugged on my heartstrings, especially in the case, and this is going to be one of the big spoilers, in the case where we all think Nariko dies in the movie. So basically, during the attack on Ginza, Godzilla uses his atomic breath, and it destroys and levels all of Ginza, killing everyone except for Tsukishima, because Nariko pushes him out of the way at the last minute behind buildings too, so he's protected from the blast, but the blast takes her with it, seemingly killing her. That was one part that tugged at my heartstrings. Not specifically that part, because that part just more so shocked me, and the part after it really wowed me. Like with when the theme Elegy, which is by far one of my third favorite themes in the whole movie itself, Elegy, when that soundtrack came on, it just wowed me the way that scene was done, with Godzilla roaring and then Tsukishima screaming at Godzilla in anguish as black rain came down. I mean, it was just a beautifully haunting scene. It was done really well. And then what really ended up getting me was Akiko's reaction to all of it, and kind of seeing it through, her eyes, the kid's eyes, because in the 1954 movie you get a similar scene where there's a child crying in the hospital, but you don't quite have that connection, that emotional connection with the child or why the child is crying. But this movie sets it up so nicely where it ended up getting me. I cried at that part, I'll admit. Getting back to Mizushima though, what got me with his part was that he wanted to fight in the final operation to kill Godzilla, or their pretty much final operation to try and kill him in their eyes. Operation Sea God. He's left behind by Akitsu and Noda. And pretty much he's part of the that original crew for the Minesweepers in the movie, which is eventually how Shikishima ends up beating all of them. Meets Noda, Akitsu, and Mizushima. He meets them through the Minesweepers, but him being part of the original crew and being left behind, and then their reasoning being because he's young, he hasn't seen war, they don't want him to have to see war, and him just crying on the steps and begging to take him with them is just kind of it started getting me going. But what really kind of topped it off for me was when Akitsu said to himself, even though we all know he was saying it to Mizushima, that we leave the future to you. It was just such a well-delivered line, and it was so well set up with the fact that all of these guys who are going on Operation Sea God, from the general, who is a veteran at this point, but he's pretty much leading the charge for this, to all of the veterans who volunteered to do this, the scientists who volunteered to help out, and the Noda and Akitsu, they all know that they could possibly die on this mission, and they most likely are, because of what Godzilla is. And it was just, like I said, you get very emotionally invested in these characters, and it's definitely something that this movie does very, very well. Speaking about Operation Sea God, I'm just bouncing off that though, we get one of the most unique and in reality grounded ways of defeating Godzilla. And not to mention, we also get the most reality grounded Godzilla ever, in my opinion. But speaking of Operation Sea God, Operation Sea God is the operation that they enact to try and kill Godzilla. They are using Freon tanks to create bubbles around Godzilla to sink him all the way to the bottom of a trench in Japan, in order to hopefully crush him under the pressure, the immense pressure of that trench at the bottom of it, and the speed that he's going down. They're hoping that kills him. And then there's a plan B that's to be enacted if that doesn't work, in which scientists had created this kind of balloon device that it's going to be strapped to these Freon tanks, and should Plan A fail, which it does end up failing, Plan B is supposed to enact where they blow up the CO2 balloons, that's what they're called, and it's supposed to catapult Godzilla up and through the water very quickly, giving him decompression sickness or scuba diver sickness. You know how if you're scuba diving and you're really deep, if you come up too fast, you pretty much experience decompression. And they're hoping that eventually ends up killing Godzilla. Because Godzilla, the way he is in this movie, he's not indestructible in manner speaking, he's not invincible, but he does have very out of this world regenerative properties, where even if he's hurt, he regenerates super quickly, like crazy quickly. Like in the beginning of the film, they drop a mine in his mouth and they blow it up, and his left side of his face from his eye to his cheek is missing, and within 5 seconds he regenerates, and within 10 seconds he's right back chasing the Shinsei Maru, which is the boat that Akitsu, Noda, Mizushima, and Shikishima are on, pretty much. So yeah, they're hoping to kill him that way, and that they don't give him enough time to regenerate. And they use real, like, things that we could get in real life, pretty much, which is what I appreciate. It's not some fancy crazy weapon like the Oxygen Destroyer or the Super X or G-cell killing bacteria. It's stuff we can actually, stuff that we have in today's world. Freon tanks and, giant freaking balloons. That was definitely something that I really liked. And then kind of topping off of Operation Sea God, of who enacts it, in that it's everyday people, it's veterans, it's not the army. And by the way, the army and the militaries of the US and Japan just are not there at all to take on Godzilla in fears of escalating US or Soviet tensions. At least that's the reasoning that was given in the movie. It ends up falling on the residents of Japan to save their country, pretty much, and keep whatever's left of their country intact from this godlike beast. And that's definitely something that we've never seen in a Godzilla movie, and it ended up paying off very well, in my opinion. I appreciate it a lot more than just having the military come in, try and take out Godzilla, but it doesn't work, or pretty much just military action for Godzilla all the time. It's something that kind of got old, in my opinion. And you can leave in the comment section down below if you disagree with me, because I don't blame you if you disagree with me. That might be a very black sheep kind of opinion, but I feel that just military on Godzilla action kind of got a little old, because Godzilla just obliterates the military every time. So to see just kind of a special unit force come in and do this, similar to Shin Godzilla, just really, to me, this was a lot more better executed than Shin Godzilla, which is why I'm gonna kind of say this too. Where in the first time in Godzilla movie history, I feel that the defeat of Godzilla was done exceptionally well, and it felt hopeful. It didn't feel like tragic or anything like that, like it felt in the 1954 one. It felt hopeful, Continuing on and talking about the amount of reality grounding in this movie and how grounded in reality this movie is, Godzilla is the most animalistic and real that, in my opinion, we've ever seen him. Especially, spoilers from the beginning of the movie, the first 10 minutes we get to see him, but not in his godlike form. We see him in his, and I'm going to quote the characters, in this dinosaur form, because it's on Odo Island which we first see him, and then the locals, or per Tachibana, which is one of the other important characters, is more like a secondary character, I feel, though, because he comes in the beginning, is not there for the rest of the movie, and comes in at the almost towards the end. Anyways, though, he says that the locals on Odo Island call this dinosaur Godzilla when you first see him, and he acts very dinosaur-like, in that he's something that nobody's ever seen, so they freak out, they shoot it, and then Godzilla pretty much reacts and kills the guard tower watch person who shot it, and then this causes everyone else to hide, and then when everyone else starts shooting at him out of panic, then he goes and kills them too. Like, he's a very reactionary animal, if that makes sense, and it's something that you see in nature, you know. If you see a random, let's say, mountain lion or a freaking pig, and you're not, you don't bother it, it's not gonna bother you. The pig, at least, shouldn't bother you. But if you shoot it and it's hurt and it's not scared, it's just pissed off, it's gonna come and attack. And that's pretty much how they portrayed the first form of Godzilla, the Godzillasaurus, which is really, really cool. And then just seeing Godzilla move through the water like the shark that he is, and kind of adapt and react as he goes along, it's like, he doesn't come off as a supernatural being in this movie, which he shouldn't come off as, in my opinion, if you're trying to have a grounded Godzilla movie. Which Shin Godzilla wasn't supposed to be, but I'm going to kind of call back to that, where Shin Godzilla seemed like a very supernatural Godzilla, which I didn't mind. It was cool, it was a very different idea, but it just wasn't something I was used to. But for this Godzilla, the way it doesn't physically adapt, but it adapts mentally to try different ideas, and how do you put it? Try different ideas and to try different solutions to, things that are attacking him, let me put it that way. It just seemed very animal-like and very real, versus, I'm just going to attack until I get to somewhere, and then I'm going to fight a monster, pretty much. Or I'm going to attack and destroy until I'm done, and then I'm gone. No, this Godzilla has some sort of purpose and, rhyme and reason in mind. And he's really pissed off at people for some reason. Like, when he gets on land, I wouldn't even say he's pissed off, because I've heard other people say that, he's just the most angry and destructive Godzilla, which I feel that he may be angry and destructive solely because he's coming into a world that he's never really known and hasn't experienced, and everything he sees he perceives as a threat, and he freaks out, especially when they attack him on Odo Island. He sees people like that attack, in Japan, and that's possibly why he attacks, in my opinion, which is kind of a neat idea and a cool idea that I believe they may have been trying to go with. You can correct me in the comments if that is in fact not what they're trying to go with, but that to me is still really, really cool. And then that's actually pretty much it. The ending, by the way, and this is the last part, but the ending of this movie is by far the sweetest ending I've ever seen in a Godzilla film, and that the main character gets the proper closure he needs. Shikishima pretty much sees Nariko, and she survived. She's in the hospital. Ota and Harakiko, and then they got a letter while Shikishima was off on the mission, and then she survived, pretty much. She survived the blast, and she was in the hospital. And then the final line of the movie is Nariko asking him, "Is your war finally over?" And then he nods, and then he pretty much cries to her at the very end. And it's a perfect way to sum up this movie, because it's the movie through Shikishima's eyes, and his experiences, what he's been going through, pretty much. And that he has been fighting a war for the past 5 years of his life, even longer, if you take in consideration World War II, because he was fighting the internal war of the whole PTSD from after the war, and his internal struggle with him being a disgrace, pretty much, with him not completing his mission and him not being able to save everyone on Odo Island. And not to mention also the war with Godzilla now for the past year that he's been fighting. That was just a beautiful way to sum up the movie, in my opinion. And my way of summing up this movie, if you haven't seen my Instagram post, pretty much the night after I watched it, as soon as I left the theater, I posted something on Instagram. My Instagram being the same thing as this channel, Chanzilla1964. I posted This is one of the best Godzilla movies of all time. That's it. That'll do it for today's movie review though, guys. If you guys like this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button down below. Even if if you agree with me, be sure to hit the thumbs up button down below. I'm just gonna throw it out there. And if you guys feel different, if you guys think I may have missed anything, glanced over anything, if you guys feel that you have a different opinion than me, please leave me a comment in the comment section down below. I know I've been kind of slacking on comments. I reply to them later. I am going to do my best to reply to them within a week, because I'm still pretty busy as a person. YouTube isn't my only thing that I do. So yeah, and then if you like what you see on this channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below, which by the way, I will be putting out a custom video, a figure custom video. Let me rephrase it. I'm going to be putting out a figure custom video sometime soon, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. And I will be doing some more movie reviews. Not sure when. It might end up being next year for all we know, because the holiday season is, it's a holiday season. We're all going to be busy with family and stuff, or with friends. But yeah, I'm going to be doing some more movie reviews. Next one will most likely be Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla from 1974, and the reason is because that was the first ever Godzilla movie I ever watched, and it's got me hooked ever since. One last thing before we sign off, I just want to say a big thank you to director Yamasaki and the whole creative team and the cast for Godzilla Minus One for bringing us this amazing Godzilla film. I'm not going to say it's a Godzilla film that we deserved as Godzilla fans, but it is definitely a Godzilla film that we needed in 2023. What am I going to say? We have this film that came out in 2023, and now next year we're going to be having Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire, coming out pretty soon too. So Godzilla fans are eating good. But yeah, thank you to the whole creative team behind Godzilla Minus One and director Yamasaki. And this has been Chanzilla 1964 saying until next time, guys. Peace.